Hello, and welcome back. Hopefully the music in the background isn't too loud. Probably not. So I received a message from George Nazir. Hopefully I pronounced your name properly. Says, "Hello, thanks for posting another video. I found you several months ago and kind of followed your journey. Can you share more information with us? Like what it's like to be enlightened? I watched your older video about our thoughts. It's very interesting. Teach us." Smiley face. Thank you. Well, George, I don't even know what enlightenment is. Really. And one thing I have to make clear is that no one can ever teach you. I am not teaching you. But you're listening to the voice inside of you, which agrees or disagrees, likes or dislikes. There's a pull, a polarization, positive or negative, within you when you hear certain things said. Sounds, when you see certain things. Your associations with that sound, a visual object or whatever, will create a certain pattern which will play in your brain and will pull you to either of those polarizations. And some people tend to share a lot of the same to be polarized in the same direction by a lot of the same things. So a person can seem to be going through the same things, likes the same things, and a sense of trust can grow within you. The more you see someone is polarized by the same things you are, you begin to trust this person. So if I say something that resonates with you on a certain level, be careful not to take it as true or false, and not to like or dislike. And be aware that inside of you, what is actually going on is not that I am revealing anything to you, but your inner guide is being pulled by certain words, sentences. You're going to feel a certain pull towards certain things that feel true to you. And oftentimes that feeling of being pulled towards a truth is revealing a certain limitation that you've been placed upon you, that you have allowed or you have placed yourself on you. It shows you from the perspective of the side that you want to be on. So if you hear something said by someone and it triggers a feeling of, yes, I could use more of that, you're seeing that from that perspective of yourself that knows this would feel good for you. It also is seen from the perspective of, I don't have this. That recognition that I don't have this, but I want this, comes from the recognition that you have allowed limitation to govern a lot of your choices, which lead you to be in a position where you feel under where you'd like to be. You'd feel lower than your highest potential. And when you hear certain truths said, it reminds you of that potential within you. And it is the little me that feels under then, but the higher me that is pointing to the truth. I'm not even sure what I'm saying myself. This seems very paradoxical, because in order to feel that something is true, it has to resonate with you, and also has to be seen from a limited perspective. There's a contrast there. You can only notice something is warmer. You can only notice the temperature of water, for example, is warmer if you're then, you can only notice the temperature of water is warmer if your hand was in a cooler temperature first. So if your hand is in cool water and you put it in a water that's warmer, you can say, this water is warmer now. In the same way that you hear certain things said, and you can feel that that's something you want, that feeling of wanting comes from the lower temperature, so to speak. Your hand is in the lower temperature. The higher being recognizes the warm temperature, and the lower temperature says, the version of you which is resonating at a lower frequency says, I want that. I don't have that, but I want that. Your higher self says, yes, this is a higher truth for you, which is possible right now. So, enlightenment is the recognition of what you have now. Your ego is the one that sees things from the limited perspective and says, I want. And the minute you stop looking at the little me that says, I want, the minute you stop energizing it, the miracle has already happened. You've probably heard many times, if you've read a lot of spiritual texts or books, that you are born enlightened. We come into this world already enlightened. Everyone is already enlightened. So there's no need to try to become enlightened, because it's already your true nature. So in order to recognize your true nature, nothing really needs to be done. Because anytime you see something that you think you want, it just means you're now in this moment identifying as the voice in your head. The story that's playing. I have this, but I want that. Which creates a time gap in between what you have and what you want. Which is a story. Just words and sounds that you play in your mind and you believe in. in being, all is possible. Sadness, happiness, both are there in your perception. And the minute you choose one as better than the other, you're again listening to that voice of wanting more. I want this more. I want more positivity, that voice says, and less negativity, that voice says. So if you want to say the opposite of enlightenment is wanting more than what you have and seeking for it and creating a gap in time between now, which you are, and a moment in the future which you perceive which will be better than what you have now. But when you get there, it's still going to be now. So the work is done in the moment, here and now. You can never strive for enlightenment in the future. You can only recognize you're fooling yourself right now. So, to bring in the light is to be aware. Aware of when you are misidentified, when you are identifying with the story. If you hear in your mind a lot of I want, I am, I wish, I this, I that, and here's a little piece of information for you. They find that people who generally refer to themselves often in conversation or in self-thought and use the words I often tend to be more prone to illness. Eckhart Tolle considers the ego to be a form of illness, has named it that. I'm not saying he believes that. It's just a way of putting certain experiences into words which will help us identify the wrong self. In being, and I'm not going to say being who you are because that implies certain characteristic traits about you, but in simply being, you are. And whatever you find in that state, that naked awareness, simply is. So as a voice comes in, which is often attached with a emotion, gives the illusion of solidity. This is real. This is happening to me right now. But how can I be happy when I am in so much sorrow? I. The emotion verifies the thought and the story. If you can look past the story, you can simply feel the emotion as it is, a movement of energy. Positive or negative makes no difference. A movement of energy is a movement of energy. And in your body, energy is expressed as emotion. You feel this. So if you can drop the word I, my, when you hear yourself using and referring to your life and the things that are happening to you through the contexts of I, my, mine, turn in that moment and feel without labels. And if all you can feel is what the mind is generating, if your mind is continually dropping labels in you, you're just creating this story and you're deeply wrapped up into it and you're deep in the emotion of the mind and the body, so what? There it is. There you are. Enlightenment is no different than not enlightened. The same thing happens inside and out. The only difference is someone who is enlightened, and that's improper to put it that way because nobody is enlightened and somebody is not. But let's just say, for the sake of this video and for language's sake, someone who is enlightened is aware, is constantly aware of his inner state. Am I confused right now? Am I identifying with the I? So in this being realization, the I am without anything else attached to it, just I am, can liberate you from the story. If you can feel the emotions directly without going through the filter of your mind, then you will experience what you've read of in the Vedas, what Jesus talks to when he refers to heaven. And when you feel this, if you come directly from anger and suddenly start to feel the I amness, your being, whatever you're feeling makes no difference. If you can feel yourself, your being in that moment, you may notice that there are levels to the blissfulness, if you want to call it. The mind will say, I want it all now. And if it's not a powerfully transformative experience right now, then it's not good enough. So the mind, your ego, will prefer to feel angry and stay with the story than to rest in a subtle joy that can arise when you shift your awareness from the story in your mind to the experience of being without future or past. The momentum that the mind creates, I want more, I want this to be more, that story will continually jump in. The ego is just trying to help you. It doesn't know better. So practice shifting your awareness from thinking to being. And the more you do this, the more you're going to deepen that sense of joy that's there. A lot of people come to enlightenment after suffering intense negativity in their life. And that realization that simply keeping my awareness in the story, which is keeping me feeling miserable, is not helping me. Just that awareness that it's not helping me can do miracles for people. Because if you're not going to bring your attention into your mind and you recognize that the mind can, like a roller coaster, bring your emotions up and down and all over the place, you at one point say to yourself, well then, maybe I should not spend so much time with my attention in the story in my mind. Maybe I can simply return to being. Have you ever heard the saying, come to your senses? Your senses give you a very solid thing to practice with. You can use the sense of touch and feel touch. Your mind may say, ooh, this is beginning to get irritating, or I like this. Be aware of the polarities that your mind is creating, and when you recognize those polarities of good and bad in you, snap out of the thinking and return to that feeling without labeling. Over time, the sense of being will deepen for you, but not without some effort on your part. It takes a little bit of effort, especially at the beginning, to get the ball rolling, because you're going against your conditioning in your mind, which is always looking for more and more and more. More mind. You have a habit of allowing or looking to your mind to solve your problems. The habit of the mind to do things for you, to make life better. Once in a while, can you put the mind down? And when you do so, allow yourself to feel what is, whether it is subtle or completely life-changing. Because sometimes it starts off small, that subtle feeling of joy. Like the example I used earlier, going from very angry to the sense of being. You may still notice your anger and the feeling it generates in the body, but that sense of being will always or still be there. You can feel a sort of peacefulness within you, even though you're angry. And the more you rest your attention on the being, that sense of peacefulness will grow and it can explode within you. You might say to yourself, how is it that I feel so peaceful when normally something like this would continually make me mad? And what you're really doing is you're withdrawing attention from the mind, which is a roller coaster of emotion, and returning it to a more stable ground, which is your body and your senses. And the feeling of being, the sense of being never changes, is continually as it is. Being is being. So returning your attention to the sense of being aware of being aware, you return to that stable ground where the feeling of peace comes from. So hopefully that helps. So wherever you are around the world, whatever time it is that you're watching this video, thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Peace.